Grand Rising, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, Capistrano Valley, and my name is Reverend Dr. Alice Reid, and I'm happy to be with you here this morning. And so, I want to say something. I've said it a couple of other places, but I'll say it here now. Although I know we would do just about anything for each other, I will never, and not have I ever, asked you to buy gift cards for me. Think about that, though. Think about that idea. Many of you may have received an email that looked like it was coming from me. It started off quite innocently. Got a minute? Can I help you? Can you help me? And when I think about that some stranger to our community who might doesn't know us at all, has noticed when they looked around that this is a community of individuals where there's a great deal of love, where if your minister asked you for help, you'd be there in a second. And the fact is that each one of you is part of this beautiful, loving community. And this scammer just proves that we have this open-hearted space where we are always supporting each other. You know, when this is not the first time. Some of you may have received it, the first time this happened. My email has not been hacked. There's just ways people can get your emails through the internet. But what I want to say is that the first time it happened, I was really quite angry. And when this happened again, while I was a little miffed, it's inconvenient. I'm wanting to make sure that you're protected because the love goes both ways, right? We love each other. But at the same time, I felt really sad for this person and for anybody who spends this amount of energy believing that preying on and exploiting people's love for one another is the only way they can get by. It really does make me sad. And I have to wonder what kind of life a person like that is living to have to resort to that. And so last night I went to bed thinking about the topic today. If you didn't catch the email, today's title is Love as a Committed Practice. Love as a Daily Commitment. Love as a daily commitment. So as I was thinking about this topic of love as a daily commitment, and I went to bed, and I was thinking, because this episode happened yesterday morning, I had dreams that were infused with both. Of course, that's how it works. Whatever we're holding in our consciousness, our subconscious tries to work out. Spirit begins to work with us on that level. And I had dreams about being, someone was taking advantage of me, and in that moment of taking care of myself and whatever was going on, it was, my partner was taking checks in the mail that should have gone, into our joint account, and it doesn't matter about the details of the dream, but what struck me when I woke up was that love is always the answer. Thank you, your word, that's coming forward, huh? It's a little loose. That love is always the answer. That when we talk about this idea of love as a daily commitment, look, I am not suggesting that we send this person money. That is not what I'm suggesting at all. But I am suggesting that when things like this happen, when there is a moment in life when we feel like we're being taken advantage of, when we feel like we have to take care of ourselves, that we also lean into that place from a conscious place, from an artful place, and to ask us, what is love calling forward from us? There's a mature relationship that we can develop with love when we are practicing love as a daily commitment, a place where we can come into where we know how to love ourselves, to take care of ourselves, but also to know that love is calling forth something else, some new experience, some grace, if you will. We had a lovely gathering on Friday night where that was our topic, and we really looked at grace. We looked at that idea that grace isn't deserved or earned, and love is the same way. It isn't just reserved for people we think deserve it. And it's a power all in of its own. And when we begin to practice it at a daily, I don't know what that was. Oh. When we begin to practice it on a daily, as a daily commitment. It's interesting, the little mishaps this morning as I talk about this topic, because you might feel like there might be a little bit of a juxtaposition between the idea of having love as a daily commitment, especially when you have situations where people might be doing harm or trying to exploit your love. It's not the organic human reaction, is it? To lean into love. But I'm telling you, in this philosophy, we have these declarations of principles that continue to anchor us in the highest idea of spirit moving through our lives. I have a couple of stories I want to share with you that really demonstrate this. The first one comes from a beautiful book called See No Stranger by Valerie Kerr. And Valerie writes, "You are a part of me I do not yet know. You are a part of me I do not yet know." And this powerful understanding speaks to some of the declarations of principle that we stand by, that we teach in this philosophy. The first one that comes to mind is that we believe in the unity of all life and that the innermost God and the highest God is one God. And the other principle that comes to mind from this idea is that spirit incarnates in life, and all people are incarnations of this one spirit. So both of these principles speak to this idea of oneness. They speak to this idea that you're a part of me that I do not know yet. And so if we begin to understand and practice those principles, really put them in practice in our daily life, we can begin to find little ways to embody them. And I promise you, every heartbreak is an opportunity. Every disappointment is a place where we can lean into this idea of love as a daily practice. And so the first story I have is directly from that book, See No Stranger, and she tells the story of her Uncle Raina, who lost two brothers to senseless violence. And one of the brothers that he lost was actually planting flowers in front of his place of business when he was shot 5 times in the back by a man who was so incensed and angry after the 9/11 attack that he felt that he needed to take it out on what he named towel heads. It was a tragedy in that man's life, and he grieved his brother, and they did regular memorials for his brother. And at the same time, this man made a statement that he was not going to give in to hate, that he needed to experience love. And setting that intention, a couple of things happened. The first thing that happened was that on the day of, a few years later, on the day of the annual memorial, this man was tried and jailed, and he ran into the mother and daughter of the murderer in a Costco parking lot. and he invited them to dinner. He embraced them. The second thing that happened for him from this intention of really being committed to love is that he wanted to speak to the murderer and let him know that he forgave him. And now that conversation was really awkward at first. And Valerie sat with her Uncle Raina when he called the prison. But when Raina shared that he had invited the murderer's wife and daughter to dinner, something shifted in the man who had killed his brother. Something softened. And he ended up the conversation sharing that when he was put to death because he received the death penalty for his crime, that when he, in the way he experienced God, he said, when I go to heaven, I will look for your brother and I will ask his forgiveness. That is a really powerful example of how someone has made a commitment to have a daily practice of love and how that intention can roll out in a really big, powerful way. My second story is a little simpler than that. My second story is simply about a man, Ken Wilcox, who was he was in a job that he really hated. His boss was, as he put it, a heartless tyrant. He was walking down a Washington, D.C. street on a cold winter day, and he was feeling really hopeless. And it was at the time it was still the tail end of the AIDS epidemic, and so he was really heartbroken about a lot of his friends that had died from the virus. And as he was feeling like he was on his last thread, some woman made a point of catching his eye and giving him a big, beautiful smile that warmed his heart. A really simple act. She didn't stop to talk to him. She didn't ask his name. She didn't ask him what was going on with him. She just made the attempt to connect with him and went on her way. And Ken tells this story actually on a podcast from NPR that was about unsung angels, unsung heroes, and he described this angel as an unsung hero in his life because it marked a turning point. He, shortly thereafter, quit his job, and today he's a minister. And as a matter of fact, he is a minister in our movement in St. Augustine, Florida. Now, I am acquainted with Ken, but I did not know this story about him until I found it on the NPR website. And so the point of that story is that it didn't cost that woman anything to make a connection. And at the same time, at the other story with Raina and his brother who was murdered, the cost was tremendous. He lost so much. But he too chose to have a commitment to love, to choose love instead of hate. And so when we look at both of these stories, they're powerful. In the case with Raina, I think it's really powerful to note, he didn't do a spiritual bypass. He didn't pretend that his brother wasn't murdered. He didn't make excuses for the murderer. He felt his grief, but he chose love instead of hate. And he protected his heart, but he kept it open. So in these two little stories that look at two opposite ends of the continuum about what we invest in this thing called love when we choose to make a daily commitment to it, there's so many places we can locate ourselves in our own daily goings-on, in the ways that we move through life, and the opportunities that come forward to us when we want to close our heart, when something happens and we get very protective. I know that place. I know that place really well. I often feel the need to protect my own heart, and I often feel the need to protect many of you. Like from this scammer who was pretending to be me. I wanted to protect all of you. And yet I knew there was something calling me to a deeper idea, to something that I had to remember. And instead of lingering on this idea of what's wrong with him, I could get to a place of what kind of pain is this person experiencing that they would have to do that. When we are faced with obstacles to choose love, that is the opportunity to engage in your spiritual practice. That is the opportunity to engage in things like spiritual community, to engage with a practitioner even, to find that place where we can keep our heart open. I know I'm not the only one who looks out in the world today and looks at a topic like love as a daily commitment and wonders, how do I do that? It starts with a choice. That's all it takes is a choice. A choice to be willing, a choice to be curious, a choice to choose love. And to know that the mature love that I'm talking about is the love that where it's a both and. We can take care of ourselves and we can love the other however it shows up. But whenever we don't move into that place, on some level we're still invested in separation. We're still invested in this idea that we are separate from one another. And I know we act like that sometimes, don't we? Like this hacker, like this murderer who was so angry at what happened in New York and during 9/11 that he took his anger out on an innocent bystander. But if we choose to, if we can choose to make that connection, if we can make it a daily practice, well, I'm going to guarantee you that you will be resourced, like I was, deeply concerned about my beloved people here being taken advantage of and going to bed, and my dreams giving me a different way to hold it. There's always an opportunity. There's always an opportunity to choose love. And it doesn't have to come at anyone's expense. So the question that I leave with you as we close this month of April, we've been looking at the art of becoming. And so I ask you to consider, what are the obstacles to you becoming and really embodying the beautiful being that you already are? And my invitation is to allow love to lead you on that path of becoming, because it will never steer you wrong. It'll always land you in the right and perfect place. You will always know who you really are. Thank you very much. All right, so let's go ahead and do that thing we do. We call it affirmative prayer. Sometimes I, tongue-in-cheek, call it neuro pathway regeneration. It's an opportunity for us to allow our minds to move to that highest place. To know that there is only one, and a multiplicity of its expressions. And that each expression has complete free will. And so we know in this moment, as we are connected, as we are each a part of ourselves that we have not met yet, that we do not know yet, knowing this truth about the thread of love that runs through all life, I know for each one that we lean towards love. We allow our minds to be open and available for love. We receive love and we give love. And in that practice of loving, we find ways to love ourselves, to take care of ourselves, to set boundaries. And we find ways to also love. To love those that we don't appreciate. To love those that we feel might be doing harm. To love those that annoy us. To those that we don't understand. And I trust in this moment as we lean into that highest idea of committing to love daily, that while we may not need to have the so-called other in our life, we will find that perfect place to locate ourselves in both self-love and love for life all around us. And it is the power of love that will guide each step, each word, each behavior, each action. And trusting that love has our best interest in the heart of God and the heart of ourselves and the heart of humanity. I know that each time we choose love, we make the world a little sweeter. We make the world a little safer. And we get to love ourselves even more as we love life in all its multiplicity. And so for this and so much more, I am grateful. I'm grateful for this truth that reminds me over and over and over again that life, that God loves life so much that it pours itself into each incarnation. And so I give thanks for this understanding. I give thanks for this moment of realization. And together we say, and so it is.